is going on, Only Playbook fans? We are back. Week 7 is over. We need to talk all about it. I am Sweetheart. I got Shobit and Shishot. Full house, guys. Shishot, how are you feeling, man?
Dude, you sure you want to do me first? Because this may take a while. No, I'm just playing.
No, I do, because I want you to invoke the listeners and even me and Shobit in the euphoric world that you have been living in the last 24 hours.
I cannot imagine what a Super Bowl feels like, because just right now, literally it feels like I can't imagine it to be any better. All three of my fantasy teams had the best times they've ever had, and 3 dubs at the end of the first round of games is like unfathomable. And then on top of that, like all day long, I prayed to gods I don't even knew that exist, and somehow, some way, the Vikings pulled it off in like the best way possible. So I'm all smiles.
Shobit, can you say the same?
I can kind of say the same. So I'm in not the sense that my fantasy team, broke even one. I won one, I lost one, but the Steelers won. They beat the Los Angeles Rams. So that is something to be excited about. Not close to the Super Bowl, because I know what that feels like. But,
wow.
But
you went there.
It felt good.
You went there. Shots fired. Wow, Shobit. All right, coming
That's
in.
like a BB gun shot. Not that big of a deal.
That's fair. Same with me. Vikings won, swept fantasy, only 2 weeks. So it's a good feeling for sure. A lot to discuss. 6 teams on bye. So when I was going through the notes, it's kind of cool that there was 3 less games we have to talk about. So hopefully that'll make for a shorter episode, but you know how that always goes. Without further ado, guys, let's kick it into the action with the rundown. 6 teams on bye, like I mentioned: Panthers, Bengals, Texans, Cowboys, Jets, Titans. So it was a bye apocalypse. It was just so weird, because now this week there's 0 byes, and then next week there's 6 byes again. So
has it always been like that? Has there been a random no bye week in the middle? Has that ever happened before?
Even if it has, it's like you hit 6 teams to no teams. It just seems so like you could go 4-2, just spread it out a little bit for fantasy owners. But Thursday Night Football, first game on the board, the New Orleans Saints were hosting the Jacksonville Jaguars. Jaguars win this game 31-24, cover the 2.5-point dog spread over 41.5 cashes. I'll kick us off, guys. Ridley owner, big Ridley fan coming into the season. I think that ship for me has personally sailed. We've had the boom weeks, we've had the bust weeks. I think this is what Calvin Ridley is in this offense. Is he's a glorified Mike Williams, he's a glorified Gabe Davis, like all those boomer bust guys that can have big weeks but also can't have big weeks. The volume is clearly Christian Kirk's. The secondary volume is clearly Evan Ingram's. Like, he's the safety blanket. So if you're not in a situation where it's like a run and gun offense or a defense where you're going to need to be in a shootout and you need to throw the ball over the top, like, Ridley's basically insignificant. Like, it's gotten to the point where I benched Ridley last week for Rashee Rice, which worked out, but most people probably don't have the benefit to bench Calvin Ridley or a guy you drafted in that nature. So it's very unfortunate. Kirk is a wide receiver 1 on that team. He's wide receiver 17 overall, double-digit points in every single week since week 1. That's 6 straight weeks, and they play Pittsburgh next week. So I think you're deploying Christian Kirk, and basically because of that matchup, I'm probably going to deploy Ridley because he becomes a matchup-based play moving forward. But not happy with the output, not happy with what I thought was going to be a wide receiver 1. And so far, this is Christian Kirk's team. So, Shishot, what did you see in this game?
Similar stuff. That was the biggest news, obviously. Ridley going so high in drafts. It's a little disappointing. There is some bright spots there, though. There's been over 5 big plays. Big plays are considered passes over 40 yards that have been caught. He has caught all of them. It's not like he has the serious case of the Deontay Johnsons, but he caught these big plays, and 2 of them were in the end zone. So, I mean, we're talking like that's almost like a 30-point swing total in his whole statistical analysis. But looking at how Lawrence has been playing too, I'm just not a big fan of this offense. They're doing a good job. They're making things work, but it doesn't seem sustainable. We'll see. Christian Kirk, however, the real deal, doing these drag routes like I've never seen before. He is really good at that, taking him to the house and everything. Big fan of that. One thing I did want to add, though, the Saints kind of lost this game, in my opinion. This was a very good game from a grinded out perspective. The Saints had 7 drives in scoring range versus only 4 for the Jaguars, and 4 red zone drives for the Saints versus only 2 for the Jags, and the Jags capitalized on both of those. The Saints only capitalized on 50% of those. So, I mean, the Saints had every opportunity to do things. They just kind of failed. Some of these kicks, I think the kicker missed 2 field goals. It was a bad game. Saints are still trying to figure stuff out. I feel really bad, but I don't feel bad for these Kamara owners who can go and suck it, because this is just not fair. He's on historic pace. He has like 5 less targets, or like one, like some sort of than Tyreek Hill, bro. Like, it's
He
crazy.
missed 4 games and he's going to lead the league in catches as a running back.
Unbelievable.
Shove it. As somebody who is as a Olave owner, not only Kamara, right? Like the Kamara shit hurts the offense. It helps Kamara owners. But when you have Taysom Hill, all of a sudden, somebody that's getting like 6 to 7 targets a game, how does that make you feel as a Chris Olave owner?
I know it's like the same boat as the Ridley owners, right? You drafted him high, 3rd round, 4th round, hoping that you would see some production, but it's just not happening. And then now he has this speeding ticket. He's in jail for going over 35 miles per hour, speedster on the road.
He thought he was Ozuna.
70. He was going 70 on a 35, man.
Jeez,
he tried to pull in Ozuna, dude, and it didn't work.
What is he thinking? But I'm hopeful. You know, I think that the targets were there. 15 targets and 7 catches on those 15 targets. Yeah, he only had 57 yards. But I think that, you know, did you see Derek Carr yelling at him when he didn't run as hard as he could on that fly route? Like, I think that kind of stuff is probably going to bring them closer together as like a wide receiver and quarterback connection. And I think they sort this thing out. The 15 targets in itself is something that I'm like, okay, I just got to keep holding and hope that this turns into something better. Because I'm optimistic on Chris Olave, even with his down games in the past couple of weeks.
Yeah, like the ceiling doesn't seem like it's as high as we wanted it to be, right? Drafting him in the 3rd down potentially could be a fringe wide receiver 1, but that target share, the floor is always there, which sucks. Is Olave last year even was like 2nd or 3rd in air yards, but those air yards weren't always realized, right? So it's like you play this game of fantasy football wise, the ball is going his way, but not all of them are hitting. And it's ironic that Derek Carr, of all people, has the audacity to yell at Chris Olave for going 100% when this motherfucker will not stop dunking the ball 3 yards behind the line of scrimmage to Alvin. Yeah. Alvin Kamara's average yards per route run was -3, guys. He was getting the ball.
I'm getting angry just hearing this.
I went back because I missed a lot of football and had to watch a lot of these games. Even Thursday Night Football, I actually watched, but I went back to rewatch because I didn't have a lot of Kamara or Saints owners, so I needed to see what the hell Derek Carr was thinking. And dude, this is like every NFL team's nightmare. Like the quarterback doesn't give enough time to develop anything. It's like Kamara's there. Shit, he's there. I got to throw it to him. Kamara's not there. Taysom Hill is my other safety blanket. So like you're not giving Olave, Shaheed, Thomas time to like run these routes. And then you have the audacity to yell at Olave when 90% of the time you don't even let him finish his route before you checked it down. No wonder he's not going to run hard. Oh God. Sorry. I could have said really bad things to Derek Carr, but that was super frustrating. Fantasy owners, like you said, if you own Kamara, you're like, keep doing this. I hope Kamara just gets 15 catches a game. But for the offense and for the team, this is disgusting. You're not going to win football games like this. Derek Carr is the big problem here. Let's see if they can actually sustain an offense. But right now, if you're a Kamara owner, you're absolutely rejoicing. First game on Sunday, guys. This is where the weirdness of Sunday began with me. The Raiders were in Chicago to play the Bears, and Tyson Bagent, Division II quarterback out of Shepherd University, shut down the naysayers, basically 30-12. They win the game. They cover the 2.5-point dog spread over 38.5 cashes. Shovit, what was your biggest takeaway in this game?
Dude, 3 total touchdowns by Deontay Foreman is unbelievable. 2 rushing, 1 receiving touchdown. He hit the hat trick. And I think that as a Deshaun Johnson owner, I'm a little bit concerned. I think that it hurts him. We saw, even with Foreman doing what he did with the 3 touchdowns, great fantasy week, he had a 50-50 split carry with Darrington Evans. So I think that you can expect the same. What you have been stashing Deshaun Johnson for to be that run RB1 for the Chicago Bears, I just don't think that will be something that you will see. And it's tough. It's like, do I start him? Do I not? It's going to be a tough decision for me moving forward with Deshaun Johnson.
Yeah, I agree. It just sucks, man. And any running back would flourish on this team, whether it's Johnson getting all the carries, Foreman getting all the carries, Herbert getting all the carries, who just gets ignored every day, even though he produces like ridiculous amounts of production every time he touches the ball. It's just going to be impossible. This is going to be one of those desperation flex plays. You cannot rely on any of these running backs to be RB2 moving forward when you're splitting the ball. But let's not focus on the running backs here. Let's talk about why they won this game. And that's TB17. I literally just gave him that nickname. I don't even know if that's running around. But he had only 1 pass, 15 yards or past the field, right? It was all within 15 yards. Super efficient, moved the ball. He knew they're playing the Raiders. They can't do shit. Let's just get down the field and get points. And that's what they did. They just moved down the field and slowly gathered points. A West Coast offense coach would love that shit. But, he did his job, minimal role. He wasn't asked to do crazy things, and he did it right. Super efficient. He was like 13 for 17 at one point. It was beautiful. Great job. And he had his whole family there. All 60 members of his family were there. So nothing but happy news for him. And I'm excited to see what he does next week. Maybe they open up the play book a little bit. Maybe he throws downfield. Maybe we see Fields on the trade market soon. Who knows?
Bro, I mean, we've spent our time, at least I personally have, like, dissing Justin Fields, so I don't want to spend too much time, but it's got to be a really bad sign when a Division II quarterback just gets plopped in a situation where, there's nothing is going right for that team. Essentially, Justin Fields wins with his athleticism. So this guy comes in that doesn't have any of that. He has some of it, but not to the level of Fields. And yet he's able to dink and dunk his way to 30 points, efficient, getting the ball out quick, going through his progressions. I mean, like you said, when you told me that he played pretty well and he was very accurate, I went back and watched it. And man, it was a flick of the wrist. Like, he made the throws look so effortless. He never looked under duress. Like, he was so poised, and it's not what you expect from a rando Division II quarterback making his first. Like, he never even played a big football, like a college football program, and he's getting thrusted into the NFL. So I was very, very impressed. For me, on the other side of the ball, the Raiders, abysmal. How does Davante Adams have 4 catches in the first drive and finish the game with 7 for 57? I will never understand that. He dropped a touchdown, though. So as much as I want to make an excuse for Davante, like, you just can't do that. That's one of the easiest drops I've ever seen. And somebody like Davante, you would never expect that. So it is unfortunate when you talk that talk, you got to back it up, man. So a little bit unfortunate there, but they play on Monday Night Football. Jimmy G should be back next week. Extra days rest. I am still trying to buy Davante Adams. I own him in our league. In my other league, I am doing everything I can to try to trade for this guy. I even offered Jacoby Myers for him, which is a weird trade. But if you look at the production, Myers has actually been way more consistent. So I think that could be an appealing trade for other people that maybe don't allure to the name Davante Adams that I seem to. So for me, I'm still riding on Davante Adams. Either he's going to turn it around or they're going to have to trade him in a week before the trade deadline because he probably wants to go to a contender. His quotes saying that he wants to be a part of the offense, all that stuff. He's clearly involved. He wants to do well. He wants the football, basically. And so if they're not going to feed it to him, I think he either gets traded or his season turns around because he's one of the best players in football. So there's no reason not to throw him the football. So if you have Davante Adams on the trade market in your league, I would still go out and buy him. The Indianapolis Colts and the Cleveland Browns. I don't think anybody expected this shootout. Gardner Minshew put up 38 points against the Browns defense and still didn't win. 39-38, Browns win this game. 3.5 points covered by Indianapolis at home, over 40 cashes. Let's talk about Jerome Ford. Jerome Ford finally had a good game. He's been the number 1 running back there, even though Kareem Hunt gets touches and is productive with them. But now he has a high ankle sprain. It was like a low-grade high ankle sprain showed. So I don't know what that means, low, high. When they say low and high, I get a little confused. So high ankle sprains, I know typically you're looking at 3 or 4 weeks. Regular ankle sprains, just really depends. So I don't know what the diagnosis is, but Kareem Hunt looked efficient. Pierre Strong came in and assumed the role of Ford, even though Hunt stayed what kind of Hunt normally does. So I don't know if this is you go out and buy Pierre Strong for a couple weeks, depending on the severity of Jerome Ford's injury. I don't know if you can shed some more light on that.
Yeah, I mean, the thing with these type of injuries is that you either get told he has an ankle fracture or you get told he has an ankle sprain. They don't tell you how many ligaments were torn. So where you tear 1 ligament, that's still a sprain. You tear 4 ligaments, 5 ligaments, that's still a sprain. So you're right. The threshold, the spectrum in this type of situation is just too vast. And getting information from a sideline reporter is not the move here. You should not listen to like a sideline reporter saying, "Oh, it's a low-grade ankle sprain." Well, how do you know that, sideline reporter? So always wait for the Tuesday, Wednesday injury reports coming from the team doctors to make a decision regarding trading, dropping, adding, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I just wanted to do my best, Justin Timberlake impression. Colts are bringing sexy back, JT back, and so JT's back and he is producing 75 yards and he got into a touchdown as well. He saw 4 targets as opposed to 1 for Zach Moss. So I'm liking it, all that I see from JT. I'm glad I got him in one of my leagues. I was waiting and I'm seeing that fruition. I did see Minshew vulture JT at times. 2 rushing touchdowns. Like, I did not see that happening.
Nobody did. You know how many times that has ever happened? You know how many times a quarterback has thrown for 2 touchdowns and ran for 2 touchdowns in Colts history? Never.
Probably never. No. Peyton Manning definitely never did that. No. I can tell you that.
Andrew Luck didn't do that either.
I'm just excited for JT. I think he's back. He's, starter, obviously. And so good things are coming his way.
I still have a little bit of reservation on that situation.
I'm selling. Sell this shit.
I think the name JT can get you more than the fact that I think at best he plays maybe 60% of the snaps, because Zach Moss isn't going away. 18 carries for both of them. Like, yes, JT saw more snaps, but there's no reason to feed Moss the ball 18 times if you don't need to, if JT is a superstar, right? So that's my fear, is if people can still allure to the name I said Justin Timberlake because you're joking. Jonathan Taylor, then I think you can sell him for sure because of the name. So it is appealing. It's nice. He saw 18 touches, the most he played, and he got in the end zone, right? So the number from a fantasy points perspective is alluring enough to trade him away, and the name. So it could be a really tricky situation where you waited all season, but now are you picking a prime opportunity to sell him because you can sell him high? So a little bit of a battle there. But Shisho, what did you see this game?
I'm your monthly kicker report. So Dustin Hopkins is in the best spot for kickers right now. These are the things you want for a kicker. Okay. You don't want an elite coach. You don't need a new and up and coming young coach, because they're going to go for it too much. They're going to use the percentages to never kick if given the chance. You need one with like a Zimmer mindset who just grind and pound. Okay. Check the fourth down conversion rates on these teams and how many opportunities they've had. The lesser, the better. Okay. You need terrible QB play. We're getting that from Watson. We're getting average play from PJ Walker, because they'll never get the ball in the end zone. They will get close enough with elite running, which is the last thing you need, is elite level running, which this offense has. They're built to run the ball. You're going to move the ball. You're never going to score throwing touchdowns. And then last thing, you have elite defense, right? You create more opportunities for the offense with the elite defense. Those are all the things the Browns have. This just means hella production. The only thing going against him is the winter and outdoors in Cleveland. Outside of that metric, everything is like Hopkins here, everybody else multiple tiers lower. So if there's a chance he's out there floating around, I'd scoop it up.
Yeah, 22 fantasy points, man. Kickers have been, you're either on the right side or the wrong side of kickers, I feel like, in a lot of seasons. And that trend, at least for me, it's like if I'm on the wrong side, it seems to be every week. But so far this year, I will say the one thing that has been on my side, Jake Elliott has been like double digits every single week. And then I randomly picked up Hopkins and he had 22. So it's like I don't know how sustainable my luck in picking up kickers or having kickers score double digit points is, but man, when that kicker spot gets 10 plus and the rest of your lineup's performing, you're like at 120 easily. It's so scary. So scary. First upset on the board, Bills in at New England, and the Patriots win this game 29-25 in a last-second touchdown by Mac Jones to Mike Gesicki, both of them doing one of the worst greedies I've ever seen. 8.5-point spread. They cover that over 41 cashes. Shisho, what was your biggest takeaway here?
Oh, man, I'm just a little disappointed in Josh Allen. Like, from a fantasy standpoint, glorious, right? You'll get those rushing touchdowns. You'll make plays happen here and there. I'm a little worried for the Bills long term. I know this isn't a major part of our fantasy football podcast, but I'm really worried. I'm really worried because the world has been given to him on a platter. You have multiple capable running backs. You have Stephon Diggs, elite level tight ends, considering the landscape of the tight ends. And you have a defense who is known for the last 5 years to be the best. So at what point do you sit there and say, what do we need to change here, right? You lose to a Mac Jones-led Patriots. You lose to Zach Wilson. You almost lose to the Giants led by Tyrod Taylor. You scored 14 points against them. At some point, you have to understand, all right, what's our landscape here? Why do we keep losing these big games in the late season? Why does Patrick Mahomes keep getting the best of you? Well, what do we do different? And I don't see anything done differently. I just see like this deer in the headlights kind of a look the closer it gets to the end. What does that mean for fantasy? Not much. You're going to get production. He's going to get you numbers probably better than any other quarterback long term. He's probably going to end up QB1. But defenses have been honing on to this targeting one receiver technique. It's working to some degree, but when you're this close losing to these bottom tier quarterbacks and almost losing to the Giants, you have to understand, like, the football doesn't work like that. You can't just force feed one guy and expect the rest of the team to do nothing. You have to spread it around, move the ball around, and I think that leads to our next topic, which is Dalton Kincaid.
Yeah, that's a great. Thank you for that segue. Dalton Kincaid, 8 catches for 75 yards on 8 targets. Knox is having surgery, so he's almost for sure probably going to be on the IR, which means at least 4 weeks miss. And the Bills' offense is sputtering. Like, that's exactly what you're saying. They have everything in terms of the recipe to like put together a great dish, yet it's lacking so many things. And I think that second weapon Gabe Davis, boom or bust, right? He's not reliable. So if Diggs is truly getting taken away, which to an extent can't happen, but it still will, where eventually you're going to double, triple team him, somebody else has to be the safety blanket for Josh Allen. Otherwise, he does exactly have that deer in his headlights look. Enter Dalton Kincaid, 8 for 75. I think the target share has to go up. They're looking and searching and pleading for somebody else to step up in this offense. Even though what's crazy is James Cook's running well, he's catching well. I wish they would throw him the football more, like use him in space where he can excel. But I think Dalton Kincaid is going to be the biggest benefactor here. Just from a volume perspective, you're now the only tight end. You're basically a wide receiver playing a tight end position in an offense that's seeking a number 2 option. I think moving forward, his usage alone is going to be top 10 easily.
Yeah. So I'm going to talk about the most important player on the Patriots team fantasy-wise, and that's Ramondre Stevenson.
Kendrick Bourne? Okay.
Kendrick Bourne, I mean, yeah, could be. As of he had a touchdown last week, so yeah, definitely. But Stevenson, he's not producing like you want him to produce this year, and it's been terrible to see. And it's the fact that he's just not getting to the end zone. And Zeke is out here vulturing Stevenson. But I think that I'm optimistic on the Patriots offense and just Stevenson being more involved in the offense. He saw 6 targets last game, so I think that he has more bounce back weeks moving forward. He's a guy that I would target and try to get definitely a buy low target for me.
Yeah, I think you're still riding on the fact that Stevenson's going to be the third down back just to catch passes. Like this, what sucks is Zeke is getting goal line work now. So we're talking about Stevenson not getting into the end zone, and now he's really probably going to have less chances to get in the end zone. So you have to hope that he is, on third downs catching those passes, those dink and dunks to make himself fantasy relevant.
Real quickly before fantasy world goes upside down with storm because the trade rumors are going to be happening here soon because the trade deadline's coming up. I can see DeAndre Hopkins getting traded to the Bills. That is something that both parties should just pull the trigger on, unload this side and that side, just get a huge target to help out Diggs and the gang. So, because I think that would be a solid fit for the Bills.
Man, so many good trade targets out there. Hopkins, Adams. Man, imagine Adams there.
No, don't do that. That's going to be the greatest wide receiver duo in the NFL history, and we can't have that.
Oh, man. Speaking of a team that basically doesn't have wide receivers, the Giants were facing the Commanders this week at home. They won the game 14-7, covered the 3-point dog spread under 37 cashes. Darren Waller is back, and it's exciting to see for me. Drafting Darren Waller was super excited. Really, really bad the first 4 or 5 weeks, but finally 3 straight weeks of 7+ targets, 12 points in 2 of his last 3 weeks. He's tight end 5 on the season already after that. So again, desolation of tight ends. But what sucks about all this is like, do you keep Tyrod Taylor because he's playing well? Like my reservations are Daniel Jones comes back, and what does that mean for production for Darren Waller? I don't know, but how crazy is it that this offense seems to be clicking a lot better with Tyrod Taylor at the helm than, $40 million man Daniel Jones? Chubby, what'd you see here?
Yeah, no, I was looking at the Commanders' backfield, and it's gross. Brian Robinson has been the hot hand for the first, couple 4 weeks or so. But now, rookie Chris Rodriguez is getting some running back share where there's Antonio Gibson already in the mix. He had 7 carries to Brian Robinson's 8 carries. So, it's just, I know there's some people out there that have Brian Robinson as their RB1 or RB2 on their team. And it's just not looking good. Sky's not looking good for our Brian Robinson owners.
Yeah, it's not looking good for anybody on that team, to be honest with you. McLaurin had a fair amount of targets, right? He had 9 targets. Dotson had 8 targets. Samuel had 8 targets. I'm staying away from this whole team. They have no identity. They don't know what the fuck they're doing. They have one of the worst offensive lines in football. And I started Sam Howell this week, so I'm extra upset, although it didn't really matter much. But Sam Howell, man, I play in a league where every sack is a -1 point, and every game he gets like -5 points from somewhere, and it's so frustrating. This offense is just atrocious. I think Sam Howell, just in retrospect, he's actually doing a pretty good job compared to what this offensive line is actually creating for them. Some of the times he breaks some tackles and kind of like, as a big dude, kind of forces some plays to happen. But outside of that, like a scrawny quarterback that playing for this team, they would be dead by now. He's on pace to have the most sacks in NFL history. That's saying something because we play in a very soft era of football where like back then the mean Joe Green and all those guys could just murder people and they wouldn't matter. Well, we are on pace to break all of those records. So Sam Howell, buckle up, buddy. It's going to be a long season.
Yeah, let's see if he can even stay healthy for the whole season with how much he's getting hit. It's actually insane. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers and the Falcons, next game on the board, guys. Buccaneers, Falcons, a low-scoring game. Atlanta on the road, cover the 3-point dog spread and win this game 16-13, despite just basically sitting out their star player, which we'll talk more about. Under 37.5 cashes. Shove it. What is it that you want to talk about this game?
Yeah, so before the game started, I asked you guys think the Falcons are going to win or the Bucs are going to win? And you said if the Falcons pass the ball, they should win. I think you said that, right? So that seems to be working for the Falcons. At least they won, and not by a lot, but 16-13. So I think that the beneficiary of that is going to be Drake London. He saw 7 targets. He also had almost a catch in the end zone, a catch that I'm like, Mike Evans probably catches that. So I think
that
the
turntables.
I know. It's it's week 7. This is where we're at. And I think that Drake London will continue to see targets. Who else is going to get the ball, right? Like it's not Kyle Pitts. The thing about
he makes crazy catches every time he gets the ball thrown to him. You're just like, okay, ball was like way back here and he just snagged it. But they're like, no, we're good. You have like Spider-Man like mitts, but we're just not going to throw you the ball.
Right. So I'm optimistic on Drake London. I think that he's going to have a good fantasy production on sheer volume itself.
Yeah, I agree with you. Talking about volume on the other side, pass catchers, right? Pass catchers, you talk about Mike Evans. Godwin is obviously second fiddle to Mike Evans this year, but I don't know what to make of Chris Godwin here, and I kind of want you guys to chime in here. 0 touchdowns on the season. He's wide receiver 42 overall. Last 3 weeks, though, he's got over 9.6 points per game and half-point per PPR. Is that a trend or of good things to come? The Bucs can't run the football very well. I know, sure, you're going to talk a little bit about how their schedule softens up for the run game, but is that schedule softening up spelling good things also for Godwin? Are you buying Chris Godwin, or with this offense, is it a guy that ultimately the numbers and stats and targets are always there, but if you're not getting into the end zone, 5 for 75 or 5 for 84 or 6 for 72 is like basically the ceiling for this man. So what do you make of Chris Godwin as we stand here right now, Shisho?
As somebody living in New York, I like low ceilings. All right. If I'm living in Texas, I'm not going to go for a low ceiling type of play, but this is the type of ceiling you do want. This is the nice kind of low ceiling. We're talking, the Ridley owners, people that, I'm getting rid of Ridley. I'm getting Godwin on my team. That doesn't look good week 2. It looks phenomenal right now. What you're getting guaranteed output from your third wide receiver, your flex play, right? We're talking about how Ridley's not playable. Well, Godwin is playable. He's playable at the flex, and we haven't seen much touchdowns, but they're going to come. There's going to be here and there. And you talked about the softness of the schedule. It is the softest run schedule in the league. So congratulations if you've been holding on to Rachaad White. Welcome to chess, not checkers. This is what you've been waiting for. This is why you draft him, because you're playing for the long run. You don't care about the week 2 through 7 output. It's coming. It's all coming. And the fact that they've seen Rachaad White and the low output, they understand it's not because of the running back position. It's the schedule has been one of the worst I've ever seen in my life. And they're not going away from him, right? Like people talk about, oh, well, this guy's kind of coming in to take some carries. Well, that guy comes, that guy leaves. Nothing to worry about there. Barring a Rachaad White injury, he's too good of a pass blocker. He's too good of a run after the catch kind of a guy. They're going to use him a lot. They're going to use middle of the field a lot because it's Mayfield. Mayfield loves the middle of the field. Historically, one of the most middle of the field players of all time. So we're talking a lot of Chris Godwin, a lot of Rachaad White. I think I'm getting Chris Godwin on my team. This is one of those easy, soft wide receiver 3/flex decisions where you can unload a really struggling player and you can just get a reputable, low ceiling, New York ceiling kind of guy.
Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense. And the Rachaad White situation actually brings about a scenario that I'm currently in that I want to run by you guys, right? So here are my running backs in my other league. I have Saquon Barkley, I have Tony Pollard, and I have David Montgomery. Montgomery is injured. Obviously, when he comes back, I have a hard time believing that I can start Rachaad White over any of those 3 guys, right? But Rachaad White's he's not as sexy of a trade appeal. So I could hold on to Rachaad White and utilize that soft schedule and deploy one of my sexier names because they're going to garner more back. If I want to make a play at a potential wide receiver 1, who of those guys are you looking at trading away?
I think Montgomery is your only answer there, dude, because like the injuries have kind of caught up now. That's 2 years with like 4 injuries. That's a lot of injuries, and the usage is going to be there. So you're going to do great for the first couple of weeks he comes back, but all signs point towards him being kind of a fragile player now. And I'm a little concerned if I'm trying to play the long game and I want to win a championship. I'm not sure if I want to, if there's a wide receiver one I can get in return for Montgomery, like a lower end, maybe like an Amon-Ra St. Brown, if possible, with some packaging around there. I'm doing it. I'm a little concerned. I'm not going to lie. If I'm playing the long run game and I'm getting this much volume from Montgomery, it's going to look really nice right now, but it's a little concerning.
Shovit, do you have any thoughts, sir?
Yeah. So name the players again. Who are you trading away?
Yeah, so I have Barkley, Pollard, and Montgomery with Rachaad White. So I can't deploy Rachaad White away because nobody wants him because of the low appeal. So I need to send away an appealing player to get a wide receiver back. Who are you trading away out of those guys?
I mean, I'm trading Rachaad White. I'm not bought in on this, that the running game is going to the defense is going to help Rachaad White. I mean, there's Vaughn in the mix and he hasn't been efficient either. So I don't think that you can, with the three guys that you have with Montgomery and the guys that have been producing, I would stick the course with that and not play on Rachaad White, who has not done anything. We've seen him last year either. Like this isn't a guy who's ever produced in any aspect. So it's just going to be tough for me to let go of Montgomery and hope to get something from Rachaad White.
Yeah, I mean that's a fair opinion, but to say that he's never produced is totally false. I mean, Leonard Fournette was in front of him for majority of the year, and when he did play, he produced pretty well, enough to not let these backups come and bother you. So everything you just explained, I already explained earlier on why I am against all of that. But we'll see. Chestnut checkers. We'll see what game we're playing.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. In an ideal world, I would trade Rachaad White, but no one's going to want Rachaad White because his
it's a low. Great, right? It doesn't make sense. Like that answer makes no sense. Like no one's going to give you good players for Rachaad White right now.
I'm not going to get anything back for Rachaad White. That's why I want to hold on to White because of the schedule and use one of my sexier names to garner somebody back. But I'll have to do some more digging to see if any of those top tier guys has like a tough schedule, blah, blah, blah. But again, having a plethora of running backs and sitting JJ on the IR, I'm looking for a wide receiver there. Crazy game next. The Ravens, holy crap, this offense is clicking. 38-6, they annihilate the Lions. Lions frauds? I don't know. 38-6, they covered the 3-point spread, over 43.5 cashes. You just talked about Amon-Ra St. Brown. I would just run to the ticket counter if somebody was like, I'll give you Amon-Ra St. Brown for David Montgomery. This guy is insane. Wide receiver 9 on the season. Every game, 7 targets. Every game, 5 catches. Every game, at least 50 yards. Does that sound familiar? Oh, yeah. There's another Brown in history that like set the record for most 5-catch, 50-yard games ever, Antonio. So this guy is following in that footsteps. I don't know. He's a poor man's Antonio Brown. But right now, there's not very many more reliable wide receivers in the NFL than Amon-Ra St. Brown. Look at the game log. Look at the target share. Look at the catches. Like, he's wide receiver 9. And the other day I was arguing with somebody saying Amon-Ra to me is not a wide receiver 1. He's probably fringe at best, wide receiver 2. And then I looked at his game log and I'm like, I would gladly take him as my wide receiver 1. Look at the production. So Amon-Ra St. Brown, it's a guy that I always overlook. And I always sit here 7 weeks later, like, why did I overlook that man? So talk about Jahmyr Gibbs.
Yeah, we finally see Jahmyr Gibbs doing Jahmyr Gibbs things, right? Like what we expected when we drafted him in terms of fantasy. But I think they're still not using him to his true potential. And that's partly because Montgomery isn't there. So they're running down the middle with him, which is not producing any fantasy results. But when they use him in screen passes and these outside runs, you see his speed. You see him getting those extra yards after catch. So that's where they need to continue using him. And I think that you can see some more of that until Montgomery comes back. He's going to be a guy that you continue to start. Last week or the week prior, I think he was a must start with Montgomery out, and he didn't produce. But I think now moving forward, you can have a little bit more hope that Gibbs is going to give you that what Montgomery is lacking.
Yeah, man, so Jake in my other league has Alvin Kamara and has Jahmyr Gibbs. And I think those guys combined for like 24 catches this past week. So must be nice.
Yeah. So the Amon-Ra St. Brown thing, it's that's why I wanted to talk about him. Nobody knows who he is or where he stands, but I got a pretty good idea. I think it's really far-fetched to say it's Antonio Brown caliber because he doesn't go deep. He doesn't do any of that. It's just like deep in. It's more Justin Jefferson than it is Antonio Brown. So I'm thinking it's more of a, for his size, obviously Jefferson's much bigger, but we're talking Edelman type of play. We're talking like if there was Jameson Williams that could stretch the field, which he hasn't really been a big threat in that he kind of comes and goes. I don't really know where he stands either. But if they did have like a Randy Moss to the Edelman or like a Devontae Adams or a bigger presence, I think that would make this team next level, right? Because now we're seeing like some injuries here and there from Amon-Ra because the volume catches up, dude. This is like Father Time is forever going to be undefeated. We're seeing a tinier receiver. If this was AJ Brown, it's a different conversation. We're seeing a tinier receiver getting 19 targets. Like, in what world do you think that's going to last all season? It's great for owners. That's great. But just think about it logically. It's a tiny guy running up the middle almost every time, or like quick outs, and he's getting hit and he's suffering from those injuries. So I'm seeing more of an Edelman style play. I just kind of clicked one day. I was like, wait a second, like this guy is really good at what he does, but who does he remind me of? It's very, very, let me get open in space. Let me create more space for the quarterback by throwing the ball like 10 yards in front on a soft lob and just going over there and getting it. It's these open field receivers he reminds me so much of.
Yeah, no, I think that's fair. I wasn't saying he's Antonio Brown level talent. I just meant the 5 for 50. I remember Brown had the record, I think, for most games in a row.
He did.
Speaking of Antonio Brown, Shovit, the Steelers played the next game against the Rams on the road, and Mike Tomlin says, I don't care who my quarterback is. I will win another game. 24-17, covered the 3.5-point dog spread, under 44 cashes. I'll let you guys talk about the Steelers if you want, but let me talk about Puka Nacua real quick, because I was waiting for one game only, where I just wanted Puka to outperform Cooper Kupp to see if that was a possibility with the way this offense runs through Kupp. I was like, is there even a world where some games I'll be like, you know what? Like, let's look at Nacua. And I was like, I don't know, man. Kupp comes back in the first 2 plays. They throw him to him, blah, blah, blah. I was having my reservations, but some uncharacteristic 2 drops in a row for Cooper Kupp early in this game. And what did they say? They said, you know what? Kupp, it's just not your day, man. You know, we're just going to give the ball to Puka Nacua. 8 for 154 and 12 targets, all led the team. Cooper Kupp, obviously, is Cooper Kupp. He's still 1 on that roster, but I thought Puka was a 2A, but I think he's more of a 1B, man. So I feel pretty good about him. I'm going to continue to hold on to him. I mean, think about this. That offense between Kupp and Nacua had 66% target share. So like that's insanity, right? So that if you're just saying 30% target share per guy, like both of those guys are automatic deployable starts. If Tutu Atwell didn't catch the 1 pass for a touchdown, I mean, we'd have a whole different story. So 66% target share between the 2 of them, both of those guys lock and loaded, man. Puka, wide receiver 4 on the season, and no end in sight there.
Yeah, Puka Nacua was a problem the whole game, man. It was terrible with the fact that we couldn't stop him, and only until Joey Porter was on him that he was able to not convert that 3rd down. That was the huge play. But fantasy wise, man, Najee, is he back? George Pickens, is he back? I'm just the thing with the Steelers is that they're going to be down early. It seems like they figure out their offense after the half. And they don't have any identity until the second half. So I think that now that Deontay Johnson is back, they're going to start converting these 3rd downs, and that means more points to be had. And I think that's going to bode well for Najee. They're not going away with him. And say what you want about Jaylen Warren, yeah, he looks better, but that's not how the Steelers think about Najee, and they want to continue using him. So I think that
picks of Mike Tomlin, man, picks of Mike Tomlin.
That's probably what it is. Yeah, I mean, he's got something on Mike Tomlin, but they want to use his like brute force, like able to use his strength to run down the middle. So they're going to continue using him. And in terms of George Pickens, like I said, if Deontay Johnson and the whole offense is running well, they're converting on 3rd downs, there's more balls to be caught, and I think that's going to bode well for George Pickens as well.
That's crazy. You could say that exact same thing about the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Unfortunately, where we're seeing Najee Harris being back, he actually scored 0.1 less points than Rachaad White. Funny how our personal narratives work that way. But anyways, I really wanted to just highlight the return of one of the greatest fantasy receivers of the last 6-7 years. I think that changed a lot of things. It just created the safety net that Pickett just did not have. Like who was a safety net there? There was none. And there was a lot of Warren having to be used. I suspect that's going to lower down a little bit because, I mean, he's a target hog, right? We're talking only 6 targets this game, just coming back. That's about 13.2 yards per target. It ended up with 76. We're going to see similar Deontay Johnson things, maybe not many touchdowns, but we'll see, up to 10 targets a game. That's a huge deal. That's a total team changer as far as the output of everybody else. So I expect good things from Deontay Johnson. If you're still able to get him, I mean, like that should be your number 1 priority. I don't know if if he's around, but if he's out there, that's a must get.
Yeah, I think it's nice for them to have 2 different types of receivers now back to open up the offense right now. I think both receivers are going to be fantasy relevant week in and week out? Absolutely not. I think 1 week, one guy's going to be, 1 week, another guy's going to be. You're playing two receivers that have completely different outlooks. Deontay offers you an amazing floor, right? He's Chris Godwin of floors, essentially, because he's going to get open and the ball's going to get thrown his way. Now, the way that Pickens is going to work is essentially every other read where Deontay Johnson is running an intermediate route. Pickens is going to take the top off the defense. You're going to get a winning boom play potential with him. So it's pick your poison there. You could start either one of them, but I don't expect both guys to be productive every week. I'm still riding with Deontay Johnson with the floor.
Yeah, it's also not possible for both guys to go off when you are throwing the ball 25 times a game, right? Like there's going to be some incompletions. Let's throw in like 10 incompletions there. We're talking 15 catches. Like who's going to succeed running, with that? Right. So it's just
inefficient running. Not as much passing. Sustaining drives is going to be the only thing that's going to lead to more volume. So yes, all of the offense essentially needs to click like they kind of did this game to be able to make both of those guys fantasy viable. But nonetheless, Steelers, what are they, 4-2 now, man? I just don't even understand that. But good for them.
13-4 after bye weeks. I don't know how they do it, but they just figured it out.
Mike Tomlin is out, man. Mike
Tomlin is the best coach in football.
The Seattle Seahawks hosting the Arizona Cardinals at home, cover the 9-point spread because they win by 10, 20-10, under 43.5 cashes. Shisho, talk to us.
I just want to talk about the running back situation. Until Connor's back, DeMarcado is seemingly back. I feel so bad for the people that used their number one waiver and picked up DeMarcado that 1 week. And then the next week, it looked like he had to drop him. You were forced to. What are you supposed to do? Hold on to that? Bro.
That's not your fault. Nope.
Right. So it's just like, that sucks. That's like probably the worst break in fantasy so far from a waiver perspective. Because, at least like the Jaleel McLaughlins, you were usable for 2 weeks and whatnot, but that's just a bad break. And now someone's going to come in, scoop them along and use them for the next 2 weeks. But yeah, that's really it. Just don't get overwhelmed trying to pick up running backs for the Cardinals because we know what the deal is here. And I hear Connor's recovering pretty at a good rate. So I think all said and done, it's going to go back to Connor's hands. They're going to just wear him out until his contract expires at this point. So don't get too cute trying to use your top waiver picks for one of these running backs. There's so many other places to go with those picks.
Yeah, another injury on their offense. Zach Ertz is now headed to the IR, right? Target machine. But it could be a good thing for this offense, man. They needed an excuse to get McBride on the field. Why did you draft him so high if you're just going to continue to play him behind a 40-year-old tight end, right? So Trey McBride on the field now. He should see more targets. This offensive game script has been how it's been all year. They're behind a lot. They throw the football a lot. Targets get sent to Ertz, Hollywood Brown, Michael Wilson on occasion. That just means that those Ertz targets are now going to be Trey McBride. Again, we're latching onto a tight end that could potentially have talent. We know nothing about him outside of the fact that they drafted him high. So which means we would have thought that they were going to utilize him. And now that there's nobody else in front of him to take away his opportunities, it seems like a pretty deployable player considering the fact that Dobbs and gang seems to play from behind a lot. So somebody to monitor. McBride, bye weeks, random tight end. You don't have one of the great tight ends and you continue to deploy McBride in certain matchups may not be a bad play.
Yeah. Keeping it with the injury theme, DK Metcalf was out last week. So Jackson Smith and Jigba saw his first career touchdown, 7 targets, and he's seeing more snaps in back-to-back weeks. So I think he's definitely a flex-worthy start moving forward. So Jackson Smith and Jigba season incoming.
Yeah, it was nice to see. Finally, they used him like they should and actually deploy their star receivers that they drafted in the first round. The Green Bay Packers are a nightmare. They lose to the Broncos on the road, and everybody is wondering what the hell is wrong with Jordan Love. 19-17 final. Broncos win this, cover the 1-point spread, under 44 cashes. Shisho, what did you see this game that is fantasy relevant?
Dude, honestly, I don't see much things wrong with Jordan Love. I just think he was put up on a way too high of a pedestal to begin with. People are talking about, like, he's never played a snap besides, like, scrappy, last-second bullshit stuff. And we're, like, considering him to be so good just because he's a Packer. I mean, yeah, albeit history does point in that direction, but that's a flaw in your reasoning if you thought Love was going to come out and start slinging like Aaron Rodgers. He's doing a great job overall. I don't see like this like terrible play per se, but it's not where things need to be. He's playing like a first-year quarterback. He's been sitting on the bench for multiple years, 3-4 years now. You would think he's gathered enough information to adjust a few things here and there. But things just haven't been going right for the Packers with the lack of receivers. There's no connection, right? Like Aaron Rodgers had the benefit of having who he wants out there. He chose, I need Randall Cobb back. I need this. I need that. They made it happen. Although they wouldn't give him a first-round receiver, they made things like that happen. Jordan Love does not have the chemistry option. He's just dealing with people that are popping in, popping out, and on a basically a first-year quarterback, right? That just doesn't work. That does not work unless you have elite level receiving, which they do not have. And now Christian Watson's out. Like, it's a mess. It's a freaking mess. They seem to be throwing into their tight ends more than any other team in some of these critical downs because there's nothing going on. So it's a mess. It's a mess. I feel bad for Jordan Love. It may get better. It may not. It's a terrible world out here. It's a dog-eat-dog world. I'm not sure how long you're going to last up in the NFC North, buddy. But it's not as bad as it seems. There are so many more worse quarterbacks. The situation just sucks, and Love is just not that guy. He was never that guy. He was supposed to be that guy, but life doesn't always work out like that.
Yeah, no, Christian Watson's knee injury, that's something definitely to monitor. That was late in the game. So I think he's optimistic that he'll be ready for week 8. But if he's not, Jaden Reed or Dobbs is going to probably get more of the targets there. And also McLaughlin owners, man, like you probably deployed him when you were able to when Javonte Williams is out. Now it's like, do you keep him? Do you?
Is he out again?
He's not out. Javonte
Okay.
Williams is not out, but it's when he's still getting carries and he's looking very efficient in his carries. So it's tough for me to drop McLaughlin right now. I would say you hold him in the event as a handcuff if Javonte Williams does get hurt.
I hold on to him for sure, man. He's one of the few players. Think about it, like Deshaun Payton drafted him, right? So he's completely turning over an entire roster. And I think coaches of that magnitude usually have guys that are their players. And so he's going to use the guy that he thought was a good idea to draft or sign, right? Yeah. And McLaughlin's his guy. So, and he's flashed. It's not like he's not good. He's running the ball hard.
He's really good.
He's elusive.
He is very good.
He runs really, really well. They have a knack for finding undrafted free agents. I don't know how Philip Lindsay was productive with the Broncos. So Terrell Davis, I mean, shit. So, keep an eye out for McLaughlin. What I'll say is on the other side, I think A.J. Dillon is just a glorified Joshua Kelly, guys. He's only good when Aaron Jones is actually there. Like, how does that make sense? Aaron Jones is out. A.J. Dillon, you're going to get the workload. He sucks dick. Aaron Jones is back. He's healthy. A.J. Dillon's like, oh, shit, man. My job's on the line. I'm going to get no touches. I have to run hard. 15 for 61, 2 for 34 through the air. Sad numbers, but both of those led the Packers. 34 receiving yards led the Packers. So that just goes to show what the state of the Packers currently is. 10 different players saw a target. So it's literally, where's the chemistry? What's the identity of this offense? Who is the guy? They don't have a guy. So no pass catchers on lineup lock. Obviously, A.J. Dillon, you're not really starting. Aaron Jones, the sad thing is if you drafted him, you're probably still going to play him. And I think the future is obviously going to get a little bit better. But A.J. Dillon's one of the most frustrating fantasy players to exist because he's only good when you wouldn't start him because he's splitting committees. So just for fantasy-wise, A.J. Dillon, you just are down the trash. So nothing more to say there.
I got a little bit of a funny story. So in my medical school football league, Chase is number 1 in our league right now. And I'm out of the playoffs, just underneath somewhere there. He is like 6-2 or whatever the numbers are now, or 6-1, something like that. But he dropped Aaron Jones 3 weeks ago. And we're all just like, dude, do you even watch football? And he's like, he sucks, bro. Look at the numbers. Look at he sucks. And we're just, since that day, we have nothing to say to him. We have nothing to say to him now. And now that even when he's back, he's not really playing so well. I know it's like a very, very, one of those like very angry situations where you're like, I know so much about football, but I look like an idiot right now. But at the end of the day, like we'll see. Oh, and by the way, the plot thickens when D-Reg has a first waiver pick and he picks up Aaron Jones and he just lost this week because Aaron Jones didn't do shit. So funny how gods work.
That's so funny. In my other league, somebody dropped Aaron Jones too. Did I tell you guys that story? I got straight up colluded where I had the top waiver and somebody dropped Aaron Jones and I'm like, well, yeah, I'm like, what an idiot. And then Jake told his brother, or no, I had like the third waiver and then Jake texted his brother to pick up Aaron Jones because he saw that I was going to get him. And I was like, dude, screw you, bro. Screw you. So I know how that feels. Absolutely. Exciting game on the board in terms of the offenses. Chiefs and Chargers. Chargers continue to just be the gift that never gives. You just continue to want it to be something that it's absolutely not. So when are we going to look the Chargers in the face and say you are just the definition of mediocrity? Chiefs win this 31-17, cover the 5.5 point spread, under 48.5 cashes by the hook. I'll kick us off. Rashee Rice, baby, 5 catches, 60 yards and a touchdown. Exciting stuff, but there are reasons to be, still have those reservations. Only 6 targets. Second, though, to Kelsey, who saw 13, which obviously 40 snaps played, which is his high on the season, including 31 on passing downs, which also is his high on the season. The trend continues to rise. But my fear is that they don't need him to be anything more than this. So it's like, what's the reason for them to be like, we're going to play him more when you already have Kelsey, you already have an offense that basically Mahomes creates out of structure when he wants. So I like the floor right now. I like the trend in the snaps going up, the targets going up, the usage going up, but it's still not to the level where you're like, I need to start this guy every week. But I do also like his talent. So I'm in a weird predicament where I like the talent. The usage is upticking slightly, but it's still not to the level where you're so confident in deploying him. And I don't know that ever gets there because the Chiefs, quite frankly, can succeed without it ever having to. So I don't know how you guys feel about Rashee Rice. Shobi, you started him this week in our league. He played well. But do you guys have any opinions on Rashee Rice long-term heading into the rest of the season?
I think he's the guy that, like, on my team, I'm just kind of deploying because of the injury situation. But if there's another guy that's there, I mean, if you're stuck between Olave and Devontae Smith, I think it's a little bit tough to kind of say that Rashee Rice, just because there's Sky Moore, there's Kadarius Toney, and then there's Kelsey, who's like, when Taylor sits in the house, then he goes off. So not that he doesn't go off other days, but it's just too many balls to be fed. But I think if you have to deploy him, then you will, and if you don't have any other choices as well.
Yeah, back on the McLaughlin thing real quick. Some people can afford to hold on to him, but in like a 5-man league, like, right, mostly it's just impossible to. But these are one of those players where if you can hold on to him, you do, because he plays for the best quarterback in the history of football, right? That's also his downside, because Patrick Mahomes doesn't need a number one receiver when he has Travis Kelce. So the whole field is an option. Anybody can go off on any day. And I'm trying to go to the finest fantasy football championships. I cannot bank on that to go to the fantasy football championships. Like it's just not something you feel confident about, because the playability is there, the yards after the catch is there. He's a big receiver that can make plays. All that's good, but playing for the Chiefs, it's just like you said, Shovit. Devontae Smith is an option, even though he's not performing that well. I'm still going to start Devontae Smith because of that boom option. That Rice, we get a solid floor from Rice. We will, because he's trusted in the goal line situation. He'll get 3 touchdowns in over a span of 8 weeks. But I don't see this like crazy resurgence where he's now the best receiver in football, or like even the top, 2 tiers of football. I think he's a guy that'll make things happen during a fill-in spot for now. Keep in mind, both his optimism and his demise is the same thing, and that's both Patrick Mahomes. And Patrick Mahomes has never been tied to anything besides Travis Kelce, and I don't expect that to change. So if you need a spark, you are down by this, and you're like, I got Godwin, I need 14 points going into blah blah blah. You don't play Godwin, you play Rashee Rice, right? Like it's a matchup type of situation here. I love the guy. He looks great. I don't know about you guys, but I just love everything about him. Big contact guy, hasn't dropped
the eye
passes.
Test for sure. Like he passes the eye test for sure.
For sure. So yeah, I would play him symptomatically.
That's fair. What did you see this game?
For me, I'm watching the Chargers hardcore because as a fan of a mediocre team myself, I have this low-key innate like tendency towards to watch other mediocre teams. And it's you just figure out what they're lacking. And the thing is, like, when you look at it on paper, they're lacking nothing. And then the defense just allows a lot of points, and they can't keep up with how bad their defense is. It's a simple case of, dude, my defense is so bad that no matter how many points I pick up, my offense will not be able to catch up to that. It's sad because that's the world we lived in for the last 2 years. But yeah, there's really nothing wrong. You deploy all these players. Eckler's slowly coming back. He seems a little hobbled still. So this is one of those weird, rare cases where you have an intelligent fantasy owner of an Eckler, and you text him multiple times about Eckler's injury, just rile that up a little bit more, be like, oh, he's hobbling again. And then 2 weeks later, you send a trade request, and this dude at this point has been playing your mind game this whole time, and now he's like, Raheem Mostert for fucking Eckler. Let's do it. I'm tired of this. You know what I mean? Like it's those situations. Take advantage of it, because I don't. It's not going to last. Eckler is going to get back to normal at some point, or he should. If not, it's a good bet to just risk it on.
Yeah. So I just want to highlight, man. I think I said it earlier, but Sunday was National Tight End Day. Couple that with T Swizzle in the stands, man. The Kelsey went off, man. 179 yards, second most in a game, and his first most was also against the Chargers in 2021. So Kelsey, Chargers, National Tight End Day, Taylor Swift. man, it's just waiting to happen that way. So, and the second point I want to make in terms of this game is Quentin Johnson was a guy that when Mike Williams got hurt, was a guy that people were picking up on waivers. At this point, man, it just seems like he's a guy that you can drop. 34 snap counts, only 2 targets. Jalen Guyton's also coming back, which is probably going to take away from some of those targets as well. Potentially could, but he hasn't shown anything to say that he is going to take that wide receiver 2 spot in Los Angeles. So I think he is droppable at this point.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Like he's going to have to expand his route tree to get the ball thrown his way. Right now, you have way better route runners in Keenan Allen, one of the best, even Joshua Palmer and Eckler, who can get open a lot quicker pace than Quentin Johnson can. So unless they're throwing him deep flies or slants to the house, he is unusable right now. One real quick update that I got, some clarity on Deshaun Watson's injury. Shishot shed some light on this. He has a strain of the subscapularis within the rotator cuff. And he continues to have both pain and weakness within movement. This type of injury in baseball normally causes pitchers to miss 4 to 6 weeks. Watson continues to work to regain strength and velocity in his shoulder and shorten that window, is what it says.
Ooh, this is interesting. I don't have my phone because my phone is being used as my camera. So I did not see this, but that's interesting because the rotator cuff has 4 muscles, right? It's 4 muscles that combine to make one cuff around your shoulder, your humeral head. So what's happening is, as if you read my article from last week, I noted that it was a rotator cuff contusion. That is so rare. I have not seen one of those, and all I do is look for injuries. And I have not seen one of those because you either tear your rotator cuff, you strain it, you pull on it. It's the pulling mechanism that hurts you. When people land on the rotator cuff area, you're either hurting your deltoid or you're hurting your AC joint. Nobody bruises a rotator cuff. This is very interesting because the subscapularis muscle is one of the most protected muscles in the upper body. So it's like you have your shoulder blade, and then you have the muscles on top of the shoulder blade. The subscapularis is underneath the shoulder blade. It's so protected. So what must have happened is it was probably like a really crushing injury where like a lineman fell on his back or something, or he got tackled and landed on his back. And his own bone probably pushed up against the subscapularis muscle and caused a big bruise, which obviously when you lean back like this, it's too much pain. It's too much pain. That being said, I played against 3 Deshaun Watsons this week. Bro, when it rains, it pours. I hope I didn't use up all my juju in 1 week. But these dudes, I don't know what they're thinking. One of them is a doctor too, so I'm not sure why he deployed Deshaun Watson out there in this type of situation. But yeah, that's what's happening to him, and it's not looking good.
Okay, yeah, it's good to know because he is still in waivers right now. Obviously, the upside with what everybody thought he could be, he's out there to grab. But if this is going to be a lingering problem in his throwing shoulder, like that, I don't know how you start a quarterback that has a problem with his throwing arm or throwing shoulder.
Yeah, it's too risky. There's options out there that will not ruin your week versus putting them out there and hoping for something that we haven't seen yet this year. It's foolish. Don't do that.
Good enough.
This is so weird. He was medically cleared at one point, and
that's because the injury was underneath the bone. They probably did like ultrasounds and they pressed on it and they didn't see it.
Wow. Gosh, man, the medical world, fascinating.
Crazy.
Stuff. Sunday Night Football, the Philadelphia Eagles and the Miami Dolphins, their second big test of the year. Were they going to answer? Philadelphia, sputtering a little bit, played one of their best games of the year, 31-17. They win the game at home, cover the 3-point spread, under 52 cashes. Shove it. Kick us off. What did you like this game?
Yeah, so it's not about what I liked, but what I saw and what I want to kind of target is DeAndre Swift only has 9 fantasy points, but his usage was very sexy. I mean, he played 70% of the snaps. I also saw 67% of passing down work. This is a running team, and I think that moving forward, if someone is willing to sell DeAndre Swift, you go and you buy low because better days are coming for Swift.
Bro, I don't know how much lower that you can get with being on the. I mean, sorry, not how much lower. It's like I don't know how much lower this output made him look because he's still on the best running team. I had to give up a Puka Nacua to get this motherfucker, dude. Yeah. It's hard out here. Getting Swift is going to cost a lot. So you may be right. 9 fantasy points. This is probably your only option to grab him.
Dude, what's so funny about that? Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. What's so funny about that is I have Puka, right? And in my other league, this guy has Swift. And the text I got yesterday, I'd be willing to part with Swift. And then his immediate text after that, Puka, ? So he also wants the same exact deal in this league. So that seems to be where the value lies for DeAndre Swift. But that's the league where I have Saquon Pollard.
Exactly. That's
So,
I had the opposite problem. I have Adams, I have DeAndre Hopkins, I have enough players to not risk losing my season from one trade. So yeah, I had to pull the trigger. I was like, I got too many receivers. Like I need to make something of this, and that's what happened.
Yeah. Speaking of running backs, though, we talked about Jeff Wilson's return for the Miami Dolphins. Achane was out, obviously, so it was Mostert, and then who was going to be the backup? They didn't run the ball effectively at all this game, but what was notable is Jeff Wilson Jr. only played 7 snaps. They were all passing downs, did not garner a single carry. Again, like I mentioned, they were down most of the game. They struggled to run. Salvin Ahmed played 18 snaps to Mostert's 26. So my thought on this is, like, Ahmed's been around. Ahmed and Wilson have been around. Like, they've been around the same time, right? And when they've both been healthy and around, it seems to still favor Wilson. This is Wilson's first week back, so I think they were just easing him in. I still think Wilson's the backup behind Raheem Mostert up until Achane comes back. So I think you can still hold on to Wilson because the upside we've seen with running backs in this offense. But I'm having a hard time because I am rostering Wilson in my other league, and rosters are, thin. Like, your bench spots are thin. So I don't know if I continue to hold on to him with the hope that there's 1 or 2 weeks to get to play him before Achane comes back, or if this is a guy that at this point I can drop. I don't know if you have any thoughts there.
I have some thoughts as a avid Miami Dolphins owner in like a lot of leagues. I went through the same thing, dude. And this is the time of the year where you got to make these really tough decisions. There's no point, like, when you remember what I say during these draft weeks, right? We're not holding a daycare here. We're not drafting to just for Sundays to be like, oh, I told you this guy was going to go off. And like, that does nothing for my team. Being excited because one guy went off out of 8 people you drafted does nothing for you. I can't emphasize that enough, right? So people holding on to certain players, it's just like there's something about proving something to somebody like, oh, yeah, I had this guy. I don't give a shit about that, right? It's this time of the year where you got to clean out. It's spring cleaning, but winter edition. So create your bench. Your bench should be supplementing your bye weeks. That's what the bench is for at this moment, unless you have really elite players and their handcuffs. Other than that, your bench is supplementing your bye weeks. You cannot afford to lose weeks 8 through 13 because you didn't have a good enough bench player because you wanted to hold on to so-and-so to prove so-and-so. Like, that should not matter. So that being said, if you have a Jeff Wilson, like I did for 4 or 5 weeks, and then I just started realizing, fuck, dude, bye weeks are coming. I don't have the capacity to see what could happen when Achane's injury is not life-threatening and he'll be back. So all that being said, I felt comfortable dropping Wilson. I actually put Kyler Murray in that IR spot because my quarterbacks are looking pretty thin. I was also a Deshaun Watson guy, and he's not coming back, and I've been streaming randos for the last 6 weeks. I'm tired of that shit. So using my theory, for me personally, I had to pick up Kyler Murray to get rid of Wilson because it's a must. If I'm going to the finals, it's not going to be because Jeff Wilson did something. It's because Kyler Murray did something. So using that thought process, you're going to have to make a decision about dropping Wilson or keeping him.
That makes sense.
I don't really have much to add. I mean, the Dolphins, as much as fun as it was expecting them to be like the greatest offense of all time, we all knew that was not the case. They beat up on really bad teams, and then they play fairly competitive with good teams. And again, transitive property doesn't work in football, right? A plus B does not equal C, blah, blah, blah. It doesn't work like that. So you have to understand, just because the Bills beat the Dolphins and then the Dolphins beat this team and then that team got beat by the Eagles, like, that is one of the most flawed theories in all of sports. Do not use that information. The Eagles look like a powerhouse. The Eagles look phenomenal. They've been playing kind of whack the last couple of days, but when you can use this Spartan type of gameplay where they just power other teams to like give up, it's amazing. I don't know if I've ever seen this before, where 2 yards, fuck it, we'll run it on 3rd down, we'll run it on 4th down, and you're going to do absolutely nothing about it. So I think this is amazing. This is the type of team that's built for the long run, and we're finally getting to see this like halfway through the year. I'm excited to see more Eagles football. Yeah,
man, tush push, often imitated, never replicated. You just can't do it. How many teams have we seen now try to do this and just get absolutely stuck? It's not a thing.
Lot.
It's not as free as people want to make it out to be. I think if the Eagles can continue to do it successfully, bro. I saw a tweet the other day that said, how come when Tom Brady was running his quarterback sinks up the middle for like 3 yards a pop, nobody ever batted an eye? And just because Jalen Hurts gets one extra guy pushing him from behind, like, all of a sudden it's the craziest thing in the world. Why can't they? Bro, figure it out. Put 9 in the box. I don't care. Like, this is an offensive scheme. They're not cheating. There's nothing that says, like, when running backs run in up the middle for one, there's nothing that says the quarterback can't come up behind him and push him. Same situation, bro. This is not like, I don't understand so many people have such a problem with this. Like, this
I did. I used to have a problem with this. I was like, that's not fair. Why do they keep getting? And then you just like sit down and let your emotions out of it. And you're like, so you're telling me all the most powerful people on one side are going against all the most powerful teams on the other side. And they're just basically going like this, right? So if one team can do that better, I don't think that should be banned. I think that's stupid.
It's all going to depend on if people get injured or not. If they start getting,
True.
Like, if there's some serious injury that happens, because there was that whole play
the Giants
on the field goals, whenever they're kicking a field goal, like too many players on the one side of the field, right? Like that caused a serious injury. So if we get to that point that tush push does that, then I think you can consider that.
True.
But until then, it may just play on.
Yeah, man. Fly Eagles 5. I mean, keep pushing the tush for as long as it works, because like, why not? That ends the rundown with one more game. We have to talk about the best game on the board. Monday Night Football, the Minnesota Vikings hosting the San Francisco 49ers. My goodness, I am still speechless a whole night later. They win the game 22-17. They cover the 7-point dog spread under 44 cashes. Shishot, I'll let you start us off here.
Bro, never been so proud to be a fan of a team than yesterday. It was crazy, man. Like, don't get homerism confused with belief, because a homer argues points that have nothing to back up, right? Like, you're just like, yeah, but he's better. This is not one of those cases. I've believed in everything that this team has to offer. It's the fumbles. I've been saying it since week 2, bro. Like, you can't expect to beat the Eagles by one score when you fumble the ball 2 times, right? It's just, and then tipped passes here and there, interceptions. You're not going to win games like that. But when that's not happening, this is what happens. This has always been the vision. Protect the ball for one of the most accurate quarterbacks in NFL history and just throw people the ball. It's that easy. That will probably win you more than half the games. Now, on the other side of the field, we had defense playing lights fucking out, as if a player's wife was stuck in the Philippines and the only way they could bring him back was to get national coverage. And that's exactly what happened. She's probably going to be back here in a couple of weeks. Shout out to Bynum. Elite level gameplay. My dude, he has been PFF IDP League's #1 player that is not a linebacker till this day. And now he just went up even higher, and it's crazy. Everything is going great. Everything's perfect. Justin Jefferson, take your sweet ass time, because we need you long run, buddy. I don't not really know what to say. I just hope the world understands what it means to be a quarterback and how to play this position. It's not about the flash. It's not about the one play you make breaking 13 tackles. It's about sitting in that pocket, delivering the ball where the ball needs to go. And if you put the ball where the ball needs to go, any receiver can get to that space before the defender can, if he's good enough. And all we need is good enough at this point. JJ will come back, make good enough better. Things are looking pretty good. I know usually I'm this hyped for unnecessary reasons, but I have never seen a game where everything just checked off. One after another. Backup running backs coming in, catching screens, taking them 25 yards. Backup receivers making 3rd down plays. Defense causing 4 fumbles on CMC. Yo, if you play like this, Vikings, there's no reason to put you in the same category as everybody else, especially when the Josh Allens are struggling, especially when the Mahomes are not Mahomesing, especially when we've seen some of these faults in the Dolphins and all these other teams. There is nothing that cannot be achieved. Play the game right, play the game how it's supposed to be played, and you will see results.
Shove it. Neutral party in this game. What'd you see?
Yeah, no, I think that so Troy Aikman was the analysis, right? And he was kind of talking about Kirk Cousins' play. And what I liked was, like, Kirk Cousins was making throws away from the receivers when he had to as well. Like, when there's a defender, a linebacker that is like hawking trying to play. I guess just kind of staying far back from the receiver, but like has an opportunity to intercept it. He threw that ball far away where like only the receiver could have potentially gotten it. And so I thought that those were little things that were good. And I thought that Kirk Cousins also like threw the ball really well under pressure. There was like really good targets throughout the game, but that's all my analysis on the Vikings. I do have something I want to talk about on the 49ers, which I can come back to. I'll keep it with the Vikings team. Suko, you can talk about that.
Yeah. I mean, as a fan, it's like you said, you've already hit the nail on the head. It's everything you want to see in your football team. Like, every aspect of the game flourished, and it was like, I can't even think of a more complete victory in a bigger spotlight in a regular season game that was actually skill-based and not fluky, right? Like, the Bills last year was one of the highest of highs, but Allen had to fumble at his own 1-yard line for us to have a chance, right? So this was like, nothing was given to us. We went out there and we literally took it from the 49ers. So, I mean, a proud father is the best way I could put it. Like, it was one of the most like rewarding things to ever witness from your team. Everybody, man. Kirk Cousins, absolute nails. Madison running hard. Akers comes in, runs hard. Ty Chandler looks flashy. KJ Osborne diving for passes that, when he's not even catching normal passes his way. Jordan Addison, bro. Jordan Addison,
Dude.
Welcome to the big leagues, my man. Wide receiver 12 on the season after this performance. Second in the league in touchdowns behind Tyreek Hill, tied with Stephon Diggs. First game of the season with double-digit targets, guys. Can you believe that? This is his first game of the season with double-digit targets, and he's wide receiver 12. First game of the season with 100 yards, and he's wide receiver 12. First game of the season with 7 catches, and he's wide receiver 12. JJ's out at least another 3 weeks, and like you said, man, if this is how they can play against one of the best defenses, if not the best defense in football, our schedule is incredibly soft for the next 6 to 7 weeks. Like you said, JJ, take your sweet time, man, because Addison can fill this role and play it effectively, and this offense is absolutely clicking. So in my other league, somebody started Kirk Cousins, Jordan Addison, and TJ Hawkinson, and their other player was CMC. CMC is their horse, right? And any other world before that game starts, I'm like, this guy is living on a prayer. Like, what's the thought process here? And lo and behold, man, that dude put up like 140 points because everybody just absolutely smashed. So I have no words. I'm at a loss of words with this game, to be completely honest with you. Just a phenomenal performance. The only thing I'll say as a Viking fan, and I don't even want to be this way, is let's not have a letdown spot against the Packers next week. Let's keep the fucking groove going.
Yeah.
If we beat the Packers and we're 4-4, man, I am like, we're back in. Like, this is an insane win. But one thing I really want to say is last year, every team that played the 49ers the week after lost. They were like 1-7 because of how much it takes to beat a team of this caliber, right? KOC was in his bag. Best play calling I've ever seen all year. So I don't want that to stop because you're playing an inferior opponent. Don't play down to your level of competition. You played this well against the 49ers. You should destroy the Packers right now that are as dysfunctional as they are. So that's what I want to see. Amazing performance, fantasy galore. Shove it. Take us home here.
Yeah, kudos to the Vikings. That was a great one for the Vikings. But I want to talk about, on the other side of the field, Brock Purdy, who I was pretty high on. I think around like week 3, week 4, like guy who can start. But I'm seeing Brock Purdy make some pretty bad throws at times. And at times he makes really great throws, right? The throws to Jennings where Jennings doesn't even see it, and then he just kind of catches it. So I think that Brock Purdy has been put on a pedestal, and we really haven't seen sort of defenses being able to stop Purdy, and maybe not enough blitzes. And the Vikings did a really good job of blitzing last week, or yesterday. So I think that it's time to start thinking that Brock Purdy isn't that great, and he's in a great system. But at the same time, he can't be in the conversation as an elite player because it's just not as accurate. And some of those throws overthrown, like wide open throws, an elite quarterback is making that throw, and Brock Purdy just is mid at this point.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with you. I think I don't know that if somebody was putting Brock Purdy in an elite level echelon, then they're completely wrong. I think what's interesting about Brock Purdy is he's playing so much better than what the expectation of him was, right?
Right.
Like you're the last pick in the draft. Nobody expected you to start a single football game in the NFL. That's not realistic because most 7th round quarterbacks don't do that. So for him to start, 13-0 and all that stuff, like he's in an amazing system. We already know the Shanahan system flourishes. But you're right. The accuracy was what was on display last night. And there were a lot of balls that sailed, a lot of balls that were a little too high for their receivers. And you had these zone windows where you had like the linebacker and then you had the safety. So you had to drop it right there. And Purdy struggled a little bit with that, right? So that's why those balls were sailing. So I think the accuracy was the biggest thing that I saw that was at fault. But I still think because of the system, you could do worse in a fantasy starter than 2 touchdown passes from Brock Purdy every week, right? So Debo was out. Trent Williams is out. Like, let's not get it twisted. The best left tackle maybe of all time was out as well. But also, real quick, shout out to the bookends on the Minnesota Vikings, maybe the best tackle duo in the NFL right now. Where was Joey Bosa last night? Or I'm sorry, where was Nick? Oh, he was probably at home. Where was Nick Bosa last night, guys? Did anybody see a single play where Nick Bosa made an impact?
No,
I've
dude.
never seen Nick Bosa as quiet as he was last night, bro. They had him on the right against Darisaw. They said, you know what? Darisaw's too good. Let's put him on the left against O'Neal. Well, what happened? Absolutely nothing because O'Neal is just as good. So the foundation for this team is as excited as I could possibly be in a long time because they actually put it together and the performance the performance mirrored what the foundation looks like. So I think that's what was most appealing. But I think for Brock Purdy owners, I still think, you're a Watson guy, even a Lawrence underperforming guy. Like you could do worse than 2 touchdown passes from Brock Purdy week in and week out. Anything else to add in this crazy week 7 slate of games, guys? Did we
Get a
miss
new
anything?
kicker. Get a new kicker, Minnesota Vikings, right now.
Greg Joseph ain't it, fam.
That's
And we didn't talk about it, but the whole Bijan Robinson situation, like I don't have Bijan Robinson, so I didn't care. I played against Bijan in both leagues, so yeah, some good juju for me too. But what the hell was that? And
he has headaches. He has headaches. It's Percy Harvin 2.0. Buckle up. Buckle up. Yeah.
No.
Yeah. I've already sent 4 trades. I should have sent this many weeks ago. I don't know why I didn't. I'm terrified. Nothing looks good anymore. Just need big plays. I just have to just hold on for big plays. That's it.
Like if that's what it is, it sucks because it just made no sense that he wasn't feeling well, so they held him out, but then he played on the final drive like a snap. Like that makes no sense. That makes absolutely no sense. So I don't know what that was about. The league's investigating all that because there's like a certain level of reporting you have to do before the game on Sunday if your guys, hurt or sick or whatever. So something to monitor. But man, if you're a Bijan Robinson owner and you got that, that's awful.
Apparently he said he's not feeling well, like it's not going well. And then later, closer to the game, he started getting actual headaches, and that's a migraine. It's a classic migraine. You get mental fog for the beginning, like 30 minutes, and then it leads into headaches. That's so debilitating. And with the sound of the crowd, it makes all that worse. And then you're getting hit in the head. So that's what happened. And the NFL is going to investigate this, and they're going to lose because it's a migraine. This is how it's done. This is how the players, show what they have. It's with the migraine. It's not like an elbow injury. Like, why did you hide that from me? The NFL is going to be able to do nothing about this. Us fantasy owners, dude, I would have gotten screwed if it wasn't for Deshaun Watson starting for every fucking team I played against because Bijan got me 0.3 fantasy points. Crazy.
And you had Foreman, right? Almost in every league.
Yeah.
So Foreman basically outputted for 2 running backs. So Bijan
Pretty
getting
much.
nothing would have been like totally fine. So
Pretty much.
Man, just absolutely crazy. That's the only other thing I can think of to talk about. But yeah, next week we have this week coming up, absolutely no buys. And then there's week 10 and week 13, I believe, are like the worst bye weeks imaginable. Yeah. I think my entire team is out both those weeks. So definitely be pre-gaming for that in 2 weeks, the bye apocalypse. But other than that, what a wild week of games. It's nice to have bye weeks because you have less games to talk about, which naturally means we talk longer. But we are the only playbook. I am Sweetcard. That is Shishot. That is Shobit. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Have a fantastic week.